I mean, you worked with De Niro.
I did, and it was terrifying.
Yeah.
Welcome to SinCast, presented by Cinemasins.
All right, everybody, welcome to the SinCast. This is Chris Atkinson from Cinemasins, joined as always by the voice of Cinemasins, Jeremy Scott.
Bazow!
And from Music Video Sins, Barrett Share.
Kapow!
Today we have a very special guest. It's someone that we all know here at the SinCast. It's Josh Childs, who is he's in a ton of movies. By the way, he's in a ton of movies. You go to the IMDb. This guy's got like 500 credits.
I'm super famous.
Yeah, you're super famous. But you are making a film called Squat.
What? and that's how you have to say it.
Yeah, you're making a film called Squat.
I am.
And you know what? We want to drum up some interest in this movie because it sounds pretty awesome. I actually got to be on the set for a day.
That's awesome.
And watched your brother Jeremy Childs do some crazy shit, and that was awesome.
I've read the script, and I want to hear more about the movie, but I want to talk about making a movie during a pandemic and making an indie film and just fucking going for it instead of waiting for some kind of perfect scenario. There's all sorts of things to get into, but what can you tell the audience without spoiling about Squat? Squat!
Squat! Yeah, that it's super easy to make an indie film in a pandemic. So,
Yep.
And the degree of difficulty is like...
it's way down there.
I keep working on the log. I hate doing like log lines and elevator pitches and stuff like that, but that's one of the necessities of this. And so I've been working on my log line, and it goes something like this. After the tragic loss of his wife and son, an agoraphobic writer becomes content to believe that there is a force field around his house. But this belief is brought into question when a mysterious cowboy enters the house and refuses to leave. Although I said it like a mystery voice, but it's actually a comedy. Because it can go either way, I guess.
I like the voice you used. That's a good elevator pitch. I think that works because it gives you a little bit of a hint of what's to come, and but it doesn't spoil anything.
No, and I do like to say that there is a promise of science fiction as well, because he has a belief that there's a force field, but it is for sure a science fiction movie, science fiction comedy. So.
Is it Chekhov's force field?
Yes. No. Yes. Which Chekhov? From Star Trek? No.
The Star Trek one.
Yeah.
Pavel.
No. Yes.
It's not his force field, but it's the writer Chekhov.
All right. So you have got, we know that your brother, Jeremy, who also has 500 credits, is playing one of the characters in this film. What else can you tell us about your cast?
It's real small. The early drafts were, I think, about a dozen or so characters, and ended up at 4. I think the draft you read, Jer, actually had 5. If I'm not mistaken, that was still a 5-person cast, and
that changes everything.
It does. Well, it does actually. It cut about 20 pages, and we had to kind of streamline the script a different direction. But that was it was clearly the way to go. So it's my brother, who is very famous, and you can see him on Showtime's Good Lord Bird, episode 2 or 3, I think. He and Steve Zahn are the guest stars for that episode.
Nice.
So not Yes God Yes.
He's not in that.
Good Lord Bird, yes. Good yes, God Lord Bird.
No, there's too many things mixed together. So he's in it, and then Chris Cunningham, who is the 3rd member of the Nether region. So I guess I should mention that the Nether region, which I like to think of Cinemasins as the weird uncle to the Nether region.
Yeah, definitely that.
Emphasis on weird.
Yeah, they because you guys have helped us launch our channel back in the day, and you've been done projects with us, over the course. But Chris Cunningham and Jer and I are the three members of the Nether Region Sketch Comedy YouTube channel. And we transitioned to the feature. So the three, I direct it, and Jer and Chris are the leads in it. And then we also have an awesome actor named Tomiko Robinson Steele, who works a lot locally, and another actor named Julian Vaca, who works quite a bit locally. And that rounds out our cast pretty much. We still have to cast a computer voice at some point in time. So maybe I'll listen to your narrator. Your narrator.
How long have you been working on this, Josh?
Well, this project specifically, it's been a few years. I believe, what are we in 2020? 3 or 4 years. A little bit of the backstory is, Chris lost his mom, and my brother and I both lost our dad within about 6 months of each other, and kind of made everything just a creative black hole. Couldn't do anything, I couldn't make myself figure anything out, and and then sort of my coming out of that was the seed of the idea for Squat, which starts with a guy who's dealing with loss and grief, and that's where the story kind of launches from. And so I went to Chris's house and pitched him a very basic version of, like, we could shoot it in your house. It would be you and Jer. I think Jer's a cowboy, and I think I think there's a force field maybe around the house, but that started the whole discussion for Chris and I. And so once we got to that point, it's been, I think 2.5 years or maybe 3 that we've, been kicking the script back and forth. And it's been it's not been a consistent, I don't know how familiar you guys are with, the whole writing process. I know Jer, you seem to be pretty, once you get into a book, you don't give up. You just stay with it straight through. But for me, there was, I'd work a few pages, and then I wouldn't touch it for a couple of months. Then I'd come back and touch it again. And then at the beginning of this year, after I stopped feeling sorry for myself at the beginning of the pandemic, like everybody else was, and stopped eating junk food and getting fat and, watching reruns of Andy Griffith or whatever.
Yes, I've done this too.
Once I kind of snapped out of that, we were really close on the draft, and I just nailed the last draft. I think that's the one I sent Jer. And it was right after that, I'm not even joking, like that next week, that Chris came and said, listen, we're selling a rental property, and my wife told me that we should use some of that money from selling our rental property to make the movie. And they were selling it because of the pandemic, that's because it's like, it's hard for everybody, like trying to get work and stuff. And so they sold it. And he was like, well, I don't know about that. And she's like, well, if you don't take the money, then you're never allowed to talk about making a movie ever again. Shut up.
I like her.
Yeah. And so she gave the kick in the butt. And after that, things started moving really, really fast. The last draft, Jer came in, and he was kind of responsible for eliminating those 20 pages in that 5th character, and that was really the kind of the goose the script needed to land where it needed to land. So I don't know if you asked for all of that information, but
I did. I asked for all of that information. I do have to say that you have far too many Jeremys and Chris's in your life.
It's very true.
This is true. This is true, because that was not me that punched up the script. That was his brother.
There will be people who may have lost the plot, and they hear Jeremy and Chris are in this movie, and they think that it's me and Jeremy, but it's not. It's completely different. Other Jeremy and Chris, totally. So
yes. True.
One Jeremy just happens to be Josh's brother. Don't worry about that.
And the other Chris, it doesn't have an H in his name, so. Just when I say Chris, sometimes there's an H and sometimes there's not.
I did want to mention, while you were talking about writing about grief or losing someone, the new Netflix movie, Over the Moon. It's an animated movie.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't watched it yet. I watched the trailer. It looks pretty good. But I just read today that the woman who wrote the book is the same woman who wrote The Hate U Give, which is a movie I loved. And she got cancer, and it was terminal, and she knew that she was not going to be around when Over the Moon was finished. So she made losing a mother and grieving through that a central theme of the whole movie, so that it would be the last gift to her husband and daughter. And I thought that was one of the most touching things I've ever heard in my life. So it may add extra meaning to that movie. Anyway, I just thought that came up into my head when you were talking about that.
Yeah,
when you're cutting characters and things like that, you said it started off like, somewhere around 12 and then ended up at 5, and you had to cut 20 pages to make it down to 4. Are there certain lines and certain things that you still keep and you just give them to other actors, or do you just say, we're done with that character, and you just pull it off like a Band-Aid?
The way this went down, that early draft that had about 12 people in it, it was just a different story. So most of that didn't stay. Basically, it was getting in the way of what this really is this kind of a character comedy about these, the original Odd Couple.
Yeah, totally.
And so they were getting in the way of that. And so once I cut them out, like the new draft at that point in time was, the first act pretty much always stayed the same. But that draft, like once that was the new direction, we saved it, so that if we had to go back to that, we could, or pull anything from it, we could, but we really didn't. We just pushed straight through, and it was like, it was just kind of focusing on one story as opposed to trying to incorporate all the other stuff. And then with the last character, the biggest thing with that is, at that point in time, that character was so entrenched in the story that, things hinged on, like plot points hinged on the character and things. So there was not dialogue wasn't necessarily transferable, but we did have to reimagine what those new plot points were and how the story kept moving forward now without this other character that basically came in the third act and just lit a fire under the story's rear to make it move fast. And so we just found other ways to do that. But in both cases, the characters' voices were also distinct and specific. They really couldn't transfer over. I mean, there may be pieces of information that exposition or something that a character gave that, slid over to somebody else. But generally speaking, it was, just a completely new sort of imagining once those characters were gone.
Yeah.
Are you still filming?
We're done with principal. And so we have,
now it's time for your $70 million reshoots.
If you call Warner Brothers, I think the child's cut can finally see the light of day by reshooting $70 million worth of footage.
Yes,
that would be awesome. But no, no, we have one pickup shoot. Actually, next week we're picking up one shot, one scene, not a shot, one scene, and then later we have another. It's a fully visual effects shot that we have to go into the studio to do. We need a green screen and all that. That's probably a spoiler to some regard, but I don't know.
No, that sounds like serious movie talk.
Yeah, we
got to go in the studio and
we're super important. But yeah, most of it's in the can, and we'll see too. Once we get a rough cut together, we'll know if we need to go back and pick anything else up. Luckily, we shot the whole thing at Chris's house, so we can go back pretty much any time and get any insert. And the leads have a vested interest in the success of the film, so I think I can get them back out as well, as long as Jeremy doesn't shave or cut his hair, because he looks like a mountain man right now for the role.
Yeah, that was the crazy thing about walking in on that thing in that house was I was noticing all these little details, but I didn't realize that it was for the movie. I just thought it was a house that was getting redone or repainted or something like that. Because there's this whole room where there's this yellow paint, on one wall and then on another wall, but not finished. And then you have pictures what's the configuration? You have your kid in there with Chris's and his wife.
Yes.
Chris and his wife, yeah, and your kid are in like a ton of pictures on the stairwells.
Yeah, Chris's real wife Rachel plays his movie wife, and my real son Jairus plays his movie son. So it is disconcerting seeing all these photos of my son like cozied up with this other family, this fake family.
And there's even a scene too that you said that you had all these books that were set up, and you even tried to get an Abel's shout out in one of the shots.
I do. There is. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how well it showed up, but it's there in the. If you look in the angle, like it's there if the angle got it right.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, Chris, you were on set.
Yeah.
And from the pictures and video I've seen, it looked like there was lots of masks.
There was, yes.
Mm-hmm. So, Josh, what can you tell us about how COVID and the pandemic? I know you've made films plenty of times from all different roles, but you've also directed before, even an indie feature like this. So, what's different? How did it change what you had to do? Did it make it more difficult? Did you find sparks from that that led to new ideas? What can you tell us?
Yeah, so going into it, our AD, his name's Kyler Wilson, and he and his wife Natalie Rufino Wilson, actually ended up doing so much they became producers on the project. But Kyler has, he's an AD, he works all the time. They're actually shooting their own feature right now. Like they were in pre-production for theirs on set, and then like as soon as we closed down, they're shooting right now. Anyway, he had been on some union sets recently where the COVID rules are much more strict than anywhere else, you know. And so he, as being the AD, he's like the right-hand man to whatever, you know, safety person is on set for COVID. So he had the full sort of rundown on top to bottom what we could do and, you know, what we should do, you know, what was necessary to do, you know. So, you know, masks were a no-brainer. Obviously everybody had, you know, temperature checks before we went in. We didn't do testing. We didn't have that kind of money for the testing,
sure.
But we had reins on everybody who was there. So it was a small crew. So it was about 20 cast and crew altogether. When we were shooting indoors, windows and doors were open. When we ate, you know, we spread out all over the outside and the lawn. I think there was one day where it was too rainy, and so everybody spread out in the house or out on the patio or on the front porch, you know. So generally it was just, we had, you know, Clorox wipes around all over the place, you know. So generally, and the way that I've even been on a couple of sets as an actor since this has started, and, you know, as an actor, you don't get to wear a mask on camera. Everybody else does to cover that protection. But what was great is we had a cast of 4, like I said. One of them never came inside. He was always shot out by himself in the yard. So he was always clear. And then there's a couple of scenes where all 3 of the other cast members were together, but most of the time it was just Jeremy and Chris, you know, were the only people in the whole house who didn't have their masks on. So it was annoying to get used to, but I think that's just like life, you know, right now. But everybody was committed to it, which was great. If you wear Barrett, you probably know, like wearing glasses is just the worst with masks. I mean,
it's the
masks
worst.
Can be annoying, but trying to look at a monitor,
yeah,
you know, and your glasses are fogging up and you're trying to watch what's going on, you know, it gets a little annoying. But yeah, everybody was safe, and we came out unscathed in that regard, which was good. But yeah, it was a big stress for me going into the production. But once we got in, like there were so many other things to be nervous about.
That's good.
So
fuck the mask, really.
That fell by the wayside. I kept wearing. I was like, well, I'm doing all I can do right now, you know. And you know, Chris was out there. I mean, we made him wear a mask and everything as well. I had a couple of guests that came out, and that was the same way. Like they did there. Nobody got in people's faces, or no, there was no face licking or.
Yeah,
no face licking.
Yeah. I mean,
so unlike most movies.
It was a little touch and go there for a second, but there was no touch. There was no face licking. You're right.
That was not the touch.
No touching.
Yeah, that's right.
So how long was the shoot beginning to end then? Was it like 2 weeks?
So 11 days for principal.
Right.
So we shot Monday through Saturday the first week, and then Monday through Friday the next week. But we switched over to night shoots in the middle of the second week, so we actually ended, Saturday morning at like 6:30 in the morning or something like that. So and we did a 1 day, half day of pickups, and then like I said, we got another one. So all in all, it'll be, I don't know, between 12 and 14 days. All said, which is not enough time to.
No. One thing that I know that you and your brother have worked on a lot of things together over the years, and you probably have a wicked shorthand. That I was sitting there thinking like tennis or something, but no, you have this wicked shorthand with each other and everything, and whatever. But is that ever hard, directing your own brother or friends or anything like that? I think everybody probably knows, they're professionals. They know to come to the set knowing all their lines, knowing that you don't have a lot of time and you have to do things like pretty quickly and everything. But is there ever a time you have to kind of light a fire under somebody's ass about anything?
No, nothing like that. I
you don't have a Werner Herzog, Klaus Kinski relationship where you want to kill each other.
Mm-hmm.
There was, I'll say, so I've worked with Jared a lot, and when we are acting together, there is a super shorthand, and it's, I can read his mind and vice versa. As far as directing him, like the process of like, I know his process. And so he's pretty clear about what he needs. He needs to know, where he's coming from and, why he's in the scene. And there were a few times when, he and Chris, the scene wasn't working, and, they would retool it, or we ended up, changing the location a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
But generally speaking, directing he's my older brother, so there is still a younger brother thing about it. But he's also just so great. So there's not a lot of notes I would give him anyway. So usually if I had anything to say to him, it was like more like continuity, like, in the next scene you have this item. So can you take it out of your pocket in this scene? It's like, yeah, cool. Yeah,
the continuity thing was the craziest thing for me watching it getting shot, because there were so many things where you're like, it was just like that, like, well, you can't do that now because later you have this, and you're like, it's like, I'm sitting there going, I don't even know how you even keep track of all the things that are supposed to be.
There were so many things too that like, I'll just be clear, I'll be honest, like, that we didn't.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
So there's a lot. It's like, and Kyler, again, our AD, who's a huge fan of you guys. That's what he would do.
I am now a huge fan of Kyler.
Yeah.
He would go, ding, I was like, oh, crap. He's wearing the wrong shoes. He was wearing different shoes. The whole movie, he's wearing these shoes and this. Like, he's got a whole new pair of shoes. And that was like the one time, like, Chris actually did mess up. All the rest of the times were all on me. But it's funny, I threw him under the bus.
Yeah.
But it was me going, oh, crap. He's supposed to have his BB gun. Where's his BB gun for this scene? All right, let's pretend like he, maybe we'll add a sound effect that he put the BB gun down over here in the shot before he entered the shot. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's like, we'll see in the cut, like, what actually plays or doesn't. But there is, but it also reminds you too, like, even the movies that you love and you watch, I think Spielberg's great at this. Like, he will gladly choose, the moment over the continuity, right?
Yeah,
Like the characters walking into a sunset, like, even though the scene right before it was pitch dark, like, or sunrise, you know what I mean? Like, he didn't care. He's like, no, the sunrise is pretty. So we'll go from middle of the night to sunrise, and that's just the way it is, So there, I mean, one of my things that I've thought about even before this movie, just on the other things I've done, anytime I work on a project, I always remind myself that somebody doesn't like Jaws, right? So it's okay if people want to nitpick our movie, or if they even flat out just don't like it or whatever. But
that one asshole that does not like Jaws, I want to punch him in the face.
White, right?
Who does he think? And some jerks don't like Blade Runner. Can you believe that?
I know, what the fuck.
Kidding.
I don't know if this gets into spoiler territory, and if it is, you can stop me, but I'll try to keep it vague. But there is a scene where your brother goes into this big, he spills a bunch of cereal on the floor.
Yeah.
And this is one of the funniest things, and I had to contain myself when it was actually shot. There's a moment where cereal gets all over the floor.
Yeah.
And there's a sort of there's a stoppage in the action, and Jeremy's talking to you, and he goes, so if I walk over here, shouldn't you hear the crunch of the cereal and everything? And I think you're saying we can just add that in later and all that. And he's like, but I think it'll be really funny if I'm thinking about it in my mind the way I'm thinking about it and everything. Yeah. And so there's this scene where he's just standing there and he's contemplating, and he turns around and I'm sitting there watching it, and the cereal just all the way to the door, and I just busted out. I was sitting there silently, just
yeah. So I think this goes back to what you were asking about Jer and the cast and stuff. They working with them was great because they had there was so many ideas like that, and from Chris and Jer. From Jer, and Chris is actually a filmmaker, all around filmmaker. He does everything, even when he's not on camera. And so he was, he can't help himself. He's trying to cut it in his mind, and he's trying to see it in his mind, and so periodically he'd be like, shouldn't we have a shot of where X, Y, and Z if I'm going to do X, Y, A? I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right. We should do that. And then, even Tomiko and Julian, who probably didn't have as much freedom, because they weren't producers and stuff, but they added so much fun stuff to it as well. But yeah, that moment with Jer, there was a few moments like that. I take for granted, I think, how brilliant he is sometimes. I think he's just the best on camera. If you've seen him, he's always solid gold in whatever he does, and he plays these really interesting characters, and he's been doing it forever, and I've been watching him longer than any other actor on the planet, right?
Yeah.
And so at moments like that, whenever I still get reminded of that moment with the Cheerios was very reminiscent to the first time I ever saw him on stage, or one of the first times I saw him at high school theater. He was doing Dracula, and he was playing Renfield, and the scene's going on, and he starts chasing this cockroach across the floor, an imaginary cockroach. The bit that he was doing was oh yeah, Renfield eats bugs, so he started stalking this bug on stage, and it became the funniest thing I had ever seen. I was like, holy mackerel, how did you come up with that? So yeah, the Cheerios thing is very reminiscent of that, and like I said, there were plenty of times when all four of the cast members and the crew too, that early on. I made a movie. Sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit, but I made a movie a little over 10 years ago that I think I know Jer saw. I think Chris saw it, maybe. If you didn't, that's okay. It didn't turn out to be very good. But there's parts of it I'm proud of. But overall, it was a micro. It was my first foray into micro budget filmmaking. But on that, I watched it again before this one, and I realized filmmaking is a collaborative art form, right? And I realized when I did that before, that was true, but I had so many ideas and I was stuck in my own head about how I wanted a lot of things to be and play out, and then rewatching it 10 plus years later and realizing most of those weren't great ideas.
Yeah.
But at least it's my own fault, right? It's nobody else's fault. So going into this one, I really wanted that to make it a little more open and just go, okay, yeah, I'm directing this, but this is, all these minds together, and there's so many, creative, interesting fun filmmakers. And so it wasn't even just the cast, but Kyler, the AD, and the DP. Like if anybody had an idea, like I was like, yeah, let's hear it. Sometimes it was problem solving. Sometimes it was like, this was be a funny bit, and I'd say 98% of the time, those things were the best idea for the moment,
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you didn't cast Ed Norton in this movie, because I think in that environment he would totally have taken over.
He was the fifth character, right? The one that got cut.
He's supposed to be cut. Not the actor. The character was Ed Norton.
Jeremy was
Ed Norton into my script. Is that weird?
Jeremy was describing a movie last week, and he was like, all right, his friends are this guy, and I don't know, some other fucking actor. And it turned out to be Ed Norton.
I'm on an anti Ed Norton run the last 6 to 12 months. I think I've had about as much as I can take of that guy.
What pushed you over the edge? A performance or an opinion?
I've already heard too many stories about him on sets. And I think it was a combination of reading about why he wasn't Hulk anymore after his stint as Hulk, and then seeing Motherless Brooklyn, which I think could be subtitled Ed Norton Loves Himself. There are interesting things in that movie, but I feel like it's all overshadowed by him having complete, total control over every decision. And that was why I made the joke. I don't think he would work very well in that kind of collaborative. People might not remember, we did a short with the Nether Region called The Beast of Valor many moons ago, and Chris Cunningham, your star, directed that.
Yeah.
And you and Jeremy Childs and I were in it. And it was not as successful as I'd hoped. But I still love it.
It's funny.
So it's funny that it was not so successful for your channel, but it was very successful for our channel.
Yeah, that's a great point, right? Like that's the way YouTube works. I mean, you put on something that people don't expect on your channel, they don't like it. But your channel is gets a huge boost out of that type of thing because people are expecting that type of thing and they love it. And that's the thing that you can never, if you ever go to that video and look at likes and dislikes, you have to ignore it because it doesn't make any sense. Like if you were to, because that thing was funny. I remember a lot of the stuff of the filming of that, and I was just laughing at all the different takes that you guys were doing on that. And it was just I mean, and the situation was just funny. So yeah, I was when that came out on our channel and it was like people were like, fuck this, I was like God, man, you guys just really don't want anything else other than Zin's videos, do you? Like you can't really like anything else at all.
But those fans that did, like that's what we launched our channel with is that video. We put that video on your channel and you said, you pimped us, you're like, go see what else these guys got. And that immediate sort of punch to our channel, that push to our channel was huge. And it was, the people that did like that type of stuff from you guys, came right over.
Yeah, it used to be really fun in the early days to do all these different things other than the Sins videos, and then after a while it was just like, this is not worth it. It's not worth all the beating our heads in to do all this type of stuff because people aren't responding to it. But when we can help other people, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So
I concur.
They just want you to come on Conan and say, I didn't do it, and then.
Yeah, whizzle wazzle.
Can I get the timeline? Because I'm kind of the outcast here. I haven't known Josh nearly as long as you guys have, but you went to college with Jeremy, correct?
Yes, yeah. So even before that, I'll do the prequel to that. Is while my older brother Jeremy Childs, who we've been talking about, was in college, he became friends with Jeremy Scott's older brother, Jeff.
Yeah.
And so they were a couple of years apart. And then when Jer left, I came in to college, the same college. And so I got to know Jeff a little bit, Jeremy's older brother. And then when Jeff left about the same time, I guess, Jared, you were there for a year before your brother left, right?
He was a senior when I was a freshman. Yeah.
But I got to meet Jer. I knew about him already, but I got to meet him actually at a camp when he was still in high school, and I was performing in the school traveling group, a PR group that we would go to from camps and, do skits and sing songs and, motivate kids to come to our college. I owe a lot of people an apology now. But so then at that point, when Jared got to school, like he and I became fast friends at that point in time. So yeah, I guess that'd been my sophomore year and his freshman year.
You may not remember this. I actually got in trouble. This is very Jeremy. Chris will attest. But I got in trouble at that camp for hanging out too much with the college drama troupe instead of the kids my own age. Like I got pulled aside by the camp director or the assistant and said, "You need to, you're in high school. You need to be a high school kid. Stop hanging out with the drama people." And I was like, fuck you.
Yeah, fuck you, buddy.
It was your own personal dazed and confused story. The football coaches don't want the football players like hanging out with the stoners and stuff.
Yeah. And I was like Matthew McConaughey's character. At the camp.
Yeah,
exactly. I shouldn't make a joke of that. No,
that's what I love about these religious school girls, man.
But I do want to say I was. That's not true. But also I was only 19, so don't need any clear phone calls or whatever.
Yeah.
This is, by the way,
those girls were 17 or 18. I was 19. So
okay, good.
Nothing like that.
That didn't happen. No, that didn't happen. You're right.
This is Aaron Dicer, who our fans know, went to the same college and was in a later iteration of the same drama group that Josh had been in, which my own brother and Josh's older brother had been in. And so there's a lot of incest here, like collegial incest.
Aaron came in after I was kicked out of the group at the school. but not for any of the things that we've previously discussed.
No,
that was not. No. I can't emphasize that enough.
This episode is one big caveat.
Yes,
it was one ill-placed joke that I can never be able to live down now.
Yeah, man. And so, at that point, I mean, I think it's partly important to the story because at that point you started living with me on campus.
A little bit illegally on campus, yes.
He's still with you now. He's just in a different room.
And we were roommates.
He didn't have a roommate, so I just slept in his roommate's bed.
He did,
and hid every time they would open the door in the mornings to check to see if people were there or not for chapel.
For chapel.
Oh wow!
It wasn't my shining moment.
Whoa. Did you really get kicked out of the school?
I mean, yes and no.
But you came back to live in the dorm?
He never really left.
So I didn't actually. Yeah, I didn't leave. I just moved across campus whenever they said that my grades were so bad I couldn't be in school anymore.
Whoa.
And that was that way for I think a semester or two. I didn't. I was only like a semester, I guess. And then I ended up going to a community college in Florida where my girlfriend at the time's aunt and uncle lived so that I could get my GPA back up and get back into school.
I see.
My grades were bad, so I lost my scholarship, and it's a story we've all heard 1,000 times. But once I got back
I'm sorry to bring this pain up, by the way.
I'm all right with it. I'm healed. I came back. I got my grades up. I came back and then realized that I didn't really want to be there anymore. And so then I dropped out of my own volition. So I did ultimately leave on my own terms. So I guess technically I was kicked out.
All right. All right.
But
that sounds better. That sounds
But I made my way back in and dropped out myself.
But basically that began us basically living together once I graduated, we shared an apartment and only for about 8 or 9 months to regroup. I went to Chattanooga with our other friend Justin, and you went to Colorado with our other friend Andrew.
That's right.
And then we regrouped in Nashville.
That's right.
And lived together and I guess as soon as Chris and I met at the theater, we hit it off, I think, pretty quick. So it was probably sometime in '99 that Chris and Josh met.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yep.
Because I'm sure I would bring Josh to late night screenings, and I know we would bring Chris to the house for our Oscar parties.
I think I won a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 video cassette.
That sounds like a prize we would give away at an Oscar party.
That was great.
Yeah.
I also remember we had a little backyard movie that we made with squirt guns or dart guns or something.
Yeah.
It was a trailer, and without us knowing it, Jer took all the footage to Chris and had him edit it together, and then surprised us. So we actually have worked on a project together. We just I didn't know.
Yeah, you didn't.
And that trailer was fucking awesome. But we basically pretended like our backyard was some kind of knockoff Vietnam, and we had squirt guns, and it was all. I mean, I bet in hindsight it was very
bad.
Well, yes. I just mean, if you were watching us make this, it was probably like watching them make The Room. But we were just like, okay, camera here, and you run and jump over this thing, and that'll be the action shot. Well, maybe like making that Boogie Nights action movie that Mark Wahlberg comes up with.
We were well into our 20s at this time, and it really was something that like 12-year-olds do.
Yes.
We didn't care.
Do you still have that?
No.
I don't think I've seen this.
Oh my God! If somebody could find that would be a holy grail.
I just remember your music selection was on point. There's even a part where Kevin kicks open the garage doors with his foot, and you were like, "I'm a chicken hawk, and I'm gonna buck."
Yeah, doing the Cypress Hill song from Last Action Hero.
Oh God, it was awesome.
And so I had that, and there's a point where Kevin's like. He does the wheel in the sky keeps on turning, and so I like put that song over it too. Actually slowed his lip movements down so that it would match the song and everything, and did that. And the fun thing about making that trailer, aside from seeing all you guys' like interactions and everything, was me being able to sort of do some creative stuff on my own, and like. Somehow you have Gene Hackman and Jimmy Stewart in this movie by the end of it, So it was Gene Hackman in 3 exciting roles, and I've got him in Crimson Tide and Get Shorty and stuff like that. So that was a lot of fun. But man, there's so many things from high school and college that I don't know if I would like to see it again, but man, it would be fun to just unearth it for one showing at least. And
I would love to see it. I have no idea if any copies survived of that, but I for sure don't have any. But
I have like 6 VHS tapes. I don't know what they are that I might have to pop into a VCR that doesn't exist because I don't have a VCR and they don't sell them anymore.
I have one. You can use mine.
All right, I'll ship them to you, and you can watch like 36 hours of what might be either episodes of Alias or my Christian rock band, or maybe it would be this trailer. I don't know.
It's crazy, right? Like I sit here and I think about how. Back in the day, like, all these records were lost and all these different things. Why weren't they better at keeping records and stuff? And then you look back at like 20 years ago, you're like, oh shit, I don't have that thing. That was awesome. But, like nobody, there's not enough of people who give a shit to keep it, keep it alive or whatever. So.
And people don't know how to label things appropriately.
Yeah.
Nope. Well, or at all. These are not even labeled at all. I don't know what's on them. All right, so now they're doing something today for this movie. Though today is 6 days ago in listener time. You are launching a crowdfunding campaign, right?
Yes, we launched it this morning, actually, and we've had a little bit of headway already, which is cool. It's been nice, though, talking to you guys. I haven't thought about it once.
There you go.
Nice.
I thought about it like a dozen times. No, I was kidding. So we've got the movie in the can. We finished shooting it. Like I said, principal photography is done. The amount of money that Chris and his wife brought to the project was great, but it wasn't if we had to spread that out over everything, it just would have been I don't want to say impossible because we're just not thinking in those terms, but we made the decision beforehand that all that money was going to go into principal photography. We were going to get a really great camera package, and we were going to get get our camera department the crew that they needed, and we were going to basically all the roles were going to be not just do for roles, right? I'm not calling my buddy who's never done anything and say, hey, will you come out and help? It was people who are professionals in their field, and nobody worked for what they were worth. And partly, I think that's, because of the pandemic, and they need work, but also there's a lot of them that were doing favors for us or favors for Kyler or, favors for our DP or love us or paying us back for favors that, over the last. That's one thing that's great about Nashville is stop that. Not that kind of favor, Jared. I literally say, that's the great thing about Nashville. And then you did that. And I'm like, no, that's not what's great about Nashville. The thing about the filmmaking community in Nashville is it's a right to work state. And so there are a lot of passion projects and small projects that people get to get up on their feet and, call other filmmakers in town to come out and play. And sometimes it's meeting new people. Sometimes it's a networking event. And sometimes it's, like I said, paying off favors or accruing favors. But all that to say, we got the whole thing in the can, but we made the decision that we were going to go back and redip the community redip into the community, I should say, to raise funds for our post-production. And so we're trying to raise $15,000 for editing and for visual effects and for sound design and scoring and all of these color correction, all of these great things that any one of those elements is probably in a real live movie, probably at least $15,000 to get done. But that's kind of our starting spot. We have connections, we have friends, and so the idea is like with everything else, it's not what they're worth, but it's something that says to them, we recognize how important your work is and help us get this done. So we launched it today. And I guess, I don't know if there's where the best way you can check us out on our social media platforms.
I can put it in the show notes too. Is it GoFundMe?
It's actually Seed and Spark.
Okay.
Seed and Spark.
So I think it's Seed and Spark / I can actually send you the actual link for it as well.
I'm on it. I've got the link right here. But yeah, best to just put it in the notes, the show notes. But it's Seed and Spark, and you can probably just do Seed and Spark's search function for Squat and find it very easily.
Yeah.
Cool.
We're talking about it on all our other platforms, on YouTube and on Twitter and on Facebook, etc. as well. So we're trying to be as visible as possible with it.
And not that it matters. You said launch today, which is October 27th, but the podcast will come out November 2nd. Just sort of. I don't know if it matters, but I would mention that.
Yeah, we will be by the time listeners hear this, we will be a week into our campaign, and I can't wait to see what that means.
Yeah, it'll already be over. It'll be you'll have raised $25,000.
Yeah,
I hope so. I'm going to tweet it out. I'm going to do it. I'm going to tweet it out.
I don't know how it works. I don't know how it works, but if you went over your amount, could you keep that and pay people more or anything like that? Or?
Yeah, we actually have. That's actually even on the page for our campaign page. So we've got 15 is what we're shooting for. Anything above that, we have some sort of different levels, so people know if we make it to 20,000, what that actually looks like. How that money can spread out, and 30 and on up. But yeah, ultimately it means that our post-production stuff can get done faster because it's not a spare time gig. It becomes a real-time gig for all these working professionals. We also get to a point, it'd be awesome to actually retroactively go back and and give the crew and cast something more, you know. Like I said, everybody worked for well below what they were worth, and it was a very humbling experience. I may have cried a couple of times on set whenever people committed to, you know, working late. And our second to the last day, we lost electricity in the whole neighborhood. So we lost a quarter of our shoot day. Lost 3.5 hours. So we had to make a plea to everybody, like, let's go home, and can everybody come in early and just ride it out until we're done with the movie tomorrow. And they did across the board. Everybody raised their hand and was all in, and I was sleepy and emotional, and you know, second into
they stand up on their desks and say, "Oh, Captain, my Captain."
In my mind, yes. I don't remember what literally happened, but that's what I
bet it felt like that.
It did feel like that, actually.
Well,
it was a hand race. It was the only way to kind of, like, there was no discreet way to do it. You know, we were out of time and everything, and so it was literally like, I know it's awkward, but raise your hand if you can come back tomorrow and do this, you know.
Well, and before a lot of people go, well, they're your friends, of course they did it and everything. You got to realize also that they've got other things that they've got to do that are lined up. Like you had, I can't remember who it was on set, had to do something right after this was done.
Kyler, Kyler.
No, it was Kyler. Yeah. And just to, you know, if you have any kind of delay that snags that could affect the next thing that they're going on to and everything. So, yeah, I mean, it's not just, oh, we're all buds and we can do this because we're all buds. It's, you know, that's our sacrifice that's actually being made and everything.
Yeah. Well, and it went beyond that too. So, like, there were plenty of people there that were my buds, but there were so many people that weren't. You know, they were there because Tyler reached out to them. So they may have been buds with somebody, but
but not me. I hated those fucking people.
There were a handful that didn't do it for me. You know what I mean? They didn't raise their hand because of me. But it affected me. You know, I'll say one general just on that. You know, the whole production. I felt like after day 2. We were always behind. So we were always leaving scenes on the table that we had to pick up the next day. And so there was always a layer of stress over everything that was consistent through the whole production for me. I lost like 10 pounds. I couldn't eat. I was just,
oh God,
we're never going to do it. But going into that last day, that's what it was so great, you know, that discouraging moment when we lost electricity, when we were so far behind, and then when everybody raised their hands, they were basically, you know, committing to, doesn't matter how long it takes tomorrow, whether it's 12 or 16 or whatever, we're in, you know.
Then there was that day you guys bought those tacos from the shady truck and everybody got the runs and you lost like another whole day of shooting.
And another 10 pounds.
Yep.
John Rice Davies pooped his pants. Is it John Rice Davies or John Reese?
John Reese Davies.
John Reese Davies.
Yeah.
Did he really?
We all knew who you're talking about.
Yeah.
For Lord of the Rings, right?
Yeah. Well,
yeah. Lord of the Rings. Yeah.
He's Gimli, but he's also Salah in Indiana Jones.
Oh yeah. He was also the discount Sean Connery.
I'm very pleased that you are not dead.
I pooped my pants.
Yes.
I remember. Here's an interesting anecdote from when I was I pooped my pants.
What was? I think we probably said the link several million times, but what's the link again? Just
the credit. So say Seed and Spark. I think it's Seed and Spark /project / squat or something.
Just look up squat, I guess.
Just go to Seed Spark and look up squat.
There you go. But if you want the link, if you want to type it out, here it is: seedandspark.com/fund/squat #story.
There you go. Boom.
Rolls off the tongue.
It does.
Very, very good.
That's why people click it. Don't say it.
Okay, well, great. I obviously hope that you get to your goal on that, because this looks really super interesting. I can't wait to see the final product, and especially after just being there for one day.
Just call up your buddy De Niro. and just ask him for it.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, we do need to get your De Niro story into this podcast. I don't know if you have one, but I mean, you worked with De Niro.
I did, and it was terrifying.
Yeah,
but I tell you what, it was pretty awesome too. Yeah, I mean, if we're talking, of course, about The War with Grandpa, which I have not seen yet. But I did hear that Jared and I, my older brother and I are both in this, and we did make the final cut. Although it sounds like it's the sort of thing that if you don't know who we are, you probably wouldn't recognize us, But the actual reality was we were on the set, and we had to play these two EMTs that basically the movie is about a prank war between a grandfather and his grandson. And one of the pranks is the grandson calls 911, I guess, and says his grandpa's having a heart attack. Super funny. So
Right.
We bust into the room and basically assault him, trying to, save him.
Nice.
We rush in. I had to rip open his shirt, which was terrifying. And we had to wrestle him. Had to wrestle with De Niro, And in the moment we did a full scene, and we, it was full of improv, and there's probably 3.5 minutes that we went on and did stuff. And I'm sure what made it to the cut is, even less than what was actually on the page to start with.
Yeah.
But it was weird being on set. Like I said, I was nervous. They get everything ready before, and when everything else is in place, they go, "We're all set. Okay. Let's invite Bob to set." And then, everybody's there waiting, and Bob comes on the set. It's very clear. Everybody knows that he's the only reason they're making their movie.
Right.
And he comes in. He was super cool. He introduced himself, and we did the scene. And what I heard was he's done at a certain time every day or a certain amount of hours, whether they're done shooting or not. I don't want to be the source material for that. So that's just what I heard. But I know that amount of time happened while we were shooting. We were like the last scene of the day, and my brother was aware of a conversation that Bob, what I call him Bob,
Right.
and the director had, and basically De Niro was like, "Yeah, that's cool. Let's keep doing. I like these guys," or something like that.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
I don't know how. Yeah, he probably has no memory of even shooting the scene because it's one of a gazillion he's done. But yeah, it was a huge high point. I actually, my buddy produced that movie, and there were a couple of roles. My brother didn't have to audition. I did.
Right.
There were a couple, even though I'm better friends with the producer, but there were a couple of roles that I read for. And this was the smaller role, but it was the one that had actual, scene with De Niro. And so
you just wanted to assault him. You just really wanted to rip that shirt open. You're like, "Hey, Vito, let me see what you got."
My brother tells us that, like, he said, when he walked in, like, all his nerves subsided because he looked at him. He's like, "Oh, I know that guy." Like, for me, it was the opposite. And every time they would say cut, I would run back to position one, which was, where you start shooting, which was behind a door. So I was never around him. I didn't want to be anywhere near the reason the scene wasn't going as planned,
Yeah.
So I would sit and hide, at our one position, but my brother would linger and listen to conversations and watch what was going on before he would leave. And he said that he had a much better experience than I did, actually.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's over. He was having his heyday while it was going on,
Yeah.
Well, you or your brother, when you've decided to finish your acting careers, one of you should write a memoir titled Wrestling with De Niro. And you include this story, but then you also make it a metaphor about trying to be an actor in the shadow of these giants who are now, near retirement. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe I'd word it differently.
You know,
better.
Considering COVID and everything, this movie's done pretty well. Actually, I mean, it's like $9 million. I think it's always like 1 or 2. I mean, obviously, you know, in a normal situation, this is one of those movies that would probably come and go, and you know, but in this environment, it's like been a decent hit, however you want to call it.
Yeah.
You were in the number 1 movie in America. That's something. That's not nothing.
That was very cool. I didn't know that until Jeremy Scott actually emailed me after it happened. He's like, "Dude," like, "Oh, great." I saw the trailer. It's been weird to gauge because I saw the trailers and most of the trailer was people just talking about how good it was to take the family to the theater again without the movie specifically.
Right. It could have been any piece of shit, like, you know, like.
So I was like, I don't know how to gauge this.
Yeah. It could have been like Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium, and people would have been like, you know, hey, you know,
good to be back.
Yeah.
The director is the guy who one of the like the guy who created SpongeBob, or one of the directors on SpongeBob or something.
Oh yeah, Tim Hill.
Yeah, when I was there, I did get a chance to meet most of the other cast. Not
Walken.
I didn't get to meet Christopher Walken. That would have been pretty sweet though.
Yeah.
But I actually went up for another project and hung out with my buddy Phil while he was on set before I went and shot there. And so I got a chance to meet a few of them. But it was Rob Riggle and Cheech Marin and Jane Seymour.
Nice.
Oh, nice. Girl, and worked with Ray Harryhausen. I was like, holy mackerel. Like,
that's awesome.
It was very cool. And they, it was just like, it wasn't a weird like fan thing. It was just a casual, like we were having dinner in the special place at the hotel, and they all were done shooting and making their way, get their
not the shady taco trucks.
Not the shady taco trucks. No. Anyway, it was all very cool, and everybody was really cool. I guess I didn't meet Uma Thurman either. I didn't meet Uma or
oh wait, Uma and De Niro reunite on this movie? It's Mad Dog and Glory and The War with Grandpa.
Yeah. That's right.
Crazy.
I love that movie.
Mad Dog and Glory.
I love that movie.
When it came out, I remember really liking it.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen it forever.
Bill Murray plays like a gangster. He's the gangster.
Yeah, like it's Bill Murray's the gangster and De Niro's
He's like playing the straight role too. Like he's not playing it for laughs. I don't recall.
No.
Was it a comedy?
I think it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
I don't remember much about it. I remember like kind of liking it when it came out.
Yeah,
but I don't remember much about it at all.
Yeah.
I'm surprised I got the title right and didn't have to call it, like My Super Ex-Girlfriend.
I kind of like that movie too.
Oh, what an asshole!
We got to stop saying bad movies, or Barrett's just gonna dig himself a hole.
Did you ever see My Super Ex-Girlfriend?
I did, and when it came out, I remember liking it. I like that she threw a shark at him. That was really funny.
Yeah, I was in New York, and I had an issue where my car got towed, even though I'd been parking in this one spot. This was like opening of the new theater and everything. I'd been parking in this new spot for like weeks. Nobody said anything. And but it says no standing, which I was not familiar with. I was not familiar with the no standing sign. I was familiar with no parking, but not no standing. Mm-hmm. So I had the car. I'd parked in this place next to a cemetery probably for a whole like 2 weeks, and nothing happened. But on the last day that I was there, just before opening, I go out and I couldn't find my car, and it was like, I don't know, midnight or something like that. Oh shit. And then so like I had to use a series of cabs to get to wherever my car was, and the cab driver struck up a conversation, as they are wont to do, and he's like, hey, I'm in My Super Ex-Girlfriend. You need to watch that movie. He started telling me all these movies he was in and everything.
I was wondering where that story was going to go.
That's awesome.
My Super Ex-Girlfriend.
thought maybe somebody had threw a shark at you. I was like, I can't wait to hear what.
Oh yeah. Well, that happened too. But that was a completely different other thing. Okay, so so we're gonna go into we're gonna actually do some recommends and warns and stuff on this podcast. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Who wants to start? Anybody got something they want to talk about?
Recommending. Mm-hmm. I'll go first.
All right.
There's nobody's being enthusiastic, so I'll go first. New movie as of I think Friday on Netflix. Netflix original called Yes, God, Yes.
Ooh.
And I think somebody on my Twitter timeline recommended it, and I clicked through and watched the trailer, sent it to my wife, and it reminded her of the movie Saved with Jenna Malone.
Yeah, which by extension also reminds me of the movie Teeth.
Yes. So this is
Jaws.
Yeah, wait.
Hey, that's
Jaws,
another exclamation point movie. Saved.
Yeah.
It is. I will keep going now. So this gal is from Stranger Things, which I still haven't seen. Is it Natalia or Natalie?
Natalia.
Natalia Dyer, I think is her name.
Mm-hmm.
She plays a Catholic high schooler who there are rumors about her tossing Wade's salad. Now,
Wade?
she and Wade were alone at a party for all of a minute. And she also does not know what tossing one's salad means. She is in the age of sexual discovery. She's in a chat room and some guy says, want to cyber. She doesn't know what it means. And he just opens up a window and says, are you wet? And she's like disgusted. She makes the best fucking facial expressions. The reason this is a full recommend from me is this girl, Natalia Dyer. Her performance is awesome. She's very charming. It reminded me a lot of Amelie in terms of just how magnetic she is. She's what makes it funny to me. The rest of the movie, I'll get to in a second. Anyway, so she decides to go it, and she's like, yes. And I see also that you are very wet because she doesn't know what she's doing, and it's hilarious. Anyway, so there's this. One of her friends goes to this special semi-annual Catholic retreat that the father puts on and comes back, and now she's all popular. So apparently all the popular kids at Catholic school are the ones that are uber Catholic and go to this retreat and get even more Catholic. I don't know anything about Catholicism, so this was in many ways fascinating to me. This movie's Catholic as hell. And so she goes to this camp, and I'll just say, everybody's horny. This is probably true of any real life camp ever. But she's also dealing with these rumors, and she's, there's a little Scarlet Letter, Easy A kind of thing going on where people are talking about her. The father during confession even brings up the rumor, nothing that you did with your classmate Wade. The father is Jonah from Veep. And who would have been awesome in this role is our friend Josh Childs. But anyway, I found the film on a whole. It was like a 94 on Rotten Tomatoes before I watched it, and that was kind of what put me over the top. And I think there's probably 20 minutes on the editing room floor that were crucial because it doesn't really cohese by the end of it all. There are 3 or 4 story threads that are literally left hanging. And I turned to my wife at the end and I was like, who did the thing with the thing? I don't want to spoil it, but I was like, I need to know why you dangle that out there and then never come back to it. But we had a good time. And it was mostly because this Natalia girl is so charming. And it's a lot of the movie is her just reacting both to weird Catholic traditions and to new sexual terms and ideas that she has no idea what they mean. And I think most of you would really enjoy it. I have one Catholic friend, and I emailed him to recommend it, and he'd already watched it. You don't count. I have 2 Catholic friends, and I emailed the one that is not Barrett.
I don't count. What have I been watching all those fucking masses for then?
I don't know. Could be my one and only Catholic friend.
I didn't think you were going on the regular. I thought you misunderstood on that.
I do think though that they should print up a poster with one of those poll quotes like Jeremy Scott, Catholic as hell.
Yes. Be warned, it's an R-rated movie. The only nudity is on screen in images that you see in chat rooms, that none of the characters get naked on screen.
Is it mostly like language and stuff
It's
like
mostly
that?
language and just talk about, salad tossing and
Right.
blowjobs and other frank stuff.
She needs to see the Chris Rock bit, right, about the salad tossing.
Toss salad, man.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the Chris Rock thing,
Oh, yeah.
Jeremy?
If I have, I put it out of my memory or something. I don't know what you're talking about.
Been watching too much Frasier. She thought it was
Definitely.
something else.
Definitely.
Yes.
Salad and scrambled eggs.
Yeah, Natalia Dyer, the longest time, like I was one of those original Stranger Things people or whatever, and she's one of the best parts of Stranger Things, and like I think a whole season and a half had gone by before I found out that she's actually from here in Nashville. And
I didn't know that.
And she also there was she did some movie that played at the Nashville Film Festival, and it was sort of a big deal at the time too. I don't remember what it was called.
Was it the one that I was in with her? Ooh, how's that for a segue?
Ooh, it probably could have been. You
were both in the Hannah Montana movie.
Oh, I don't remember her being there.
Well,
I didn't shoot with her.
What was the movie for the Nashville Film Festival?
It's called Too Sunny for Santa. It was a short film. This predated her Stranger Things by a couple of years. But,
okay.
I played her dad in that. It was a sweet little movie, actually. And my brother has played her in a movie with her, where he was, I think, her kidnapper. Actually,
nice.
Oh, okay.
And then Chris, the other person from the Nether region, used to shoot some of her auditions and do some coaching for her because she's from Nashville. So the whole Nether region gang has a connection to Natalia.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's really cool. Yeah, whatever this movie was definitely well into her Stranger Things run. So I don't know what that was, but that was another. I think I had forgotten about that, and then that movie came up, and I was like, "Oh yeah, she's from here." And there was like an actual, like, I guess it wasn't a paparazzi photo, but somebody was on their Instagram was like, "I just saw her and her boyfriend at the Jenny's in Green Hills and stuff or whatever." So yes, God, yes is a full recommend, or is it a warn?
It's a recommend. I am not putting any warn in there, but I am just caveating by saying, if I were grading it, if we were reviewing it, it probably would get a B+ from me.
Okay.
Not like a solid A, because I do think it wants to say more than it finally gets around to saying. But I was charmed by it, and I laughed out loud several times. That's really all I need when the wife and I sit down to watch a movie.
Yeah. I don't know if this is not really that much of a Halloween movie, but it'll be past Halloween when this podcast comes out. But I don't get a chance to watch very, very many things that don't involve work these days and everything. And of course, Barrett's already stolen one that I have seen that wasn't for work. But the one I watched, Turner Classic Movies, every time October rolls around, when I'm flipping channels, I'll see something. I'm like, oh yeah, there's that. I've never seen that before. And then I'll go and I'll check the rest of their lineup for the month, and I'll be like, oh my God, there's all sorts of cool stuff coming, like they're playing. And one that I gave a good chance was Eyes Without a Face, which of course most of you know is a Billy Idol song. But Eyes Without a Face is a French film from 1960 where there is a disappearance of a young girl, and there's this scientist who has a daughter who has been in an accident, and she has lost. I guess her face has been torn off or has been damaged in some way, and trying to get her back to normal, quote unquote. He has been kidnapping other young girls to take their face off, and to apply it to her face and to make her whole again, quote unquote. And so like, it's a very interesting movie. I don't think it's I don't know if they're hoping that this is like one of the scariest movies ever made or anything like that, because there's not really anything about it that's like just ridiculously scary. There is a surgery scene that I'm like, oh my God, 1960? Yeah. That's really fucked up, the way they did that. Because it aside from the fact that it's like a plastic thing that they're pulling off, it looks real enough that you're like, oh my God, they're showing it full. They're not even editing it. It just looks like they're pulling this girl's face off and everything. But for various reasons, every time that he tries this, it either doesn't work or maybe I think the one girl died. I can't remember. One girl died during the surgery and everything. And this guy's like super driven to keep finding young girls to do this. But yeah, it's a recommend. It's a good movie. It's just, I don't know if anybody's going to watch this and be like, oh my God, scariest thing ever or anything. It's just very well shot, very well acted. There you go.
Nice.
Eyes without a face.
Eyes without a face.
I feel like I remember that it was, they were real strategic with like it's not really gory. The scene you're talking about is the only, like, it's still very like PG by today's standards.
Yes.
Like it's a lot of out of focus, if I remember correctly, right? Like they show her like in the background, but she's out of focus at one point in time, so you can't really tell what's going on.
Well, the scene where there's I don't know how many total. I think there's a total of 3 kidnapped girls, and the second one is the one where you actually see him draw the pencil around, and then he traces it. And now that's another thing. You can see the tracing is really just marking, like there's paint on the thing that makes it look like there's blood coming out and everything. But it was pretty clear. I don't know if it was, I don't know if it was blurry. I don't know if they've restored it in some way to make it look like it's clearer than, I don't know. But, if I recall correctly, it was pretty clear. It was like, very well focused. Well, one thing that they keep doing when the daughter isn't wearing her mask is she's always got her head turned away from the camera.
Yeah.
And so you just see the back of her hair all the time. And and then when they put the mask on, it's basically what that girl looks like in real life. It looks almost exactly like that. And there is a scene where you get to see her like without the mask, and she's got the new skin on, and it looks great because, she's actually it's her actual face. Yeah. There's a point. There's one point where she's got the mask off and she goes to look at one of the other girls that's been kidnapped, and there's no mask. And, it's supposed to, especially with the girl who's like been kidnapped and has been asleep and everything. And this girl comes over and like looks at her and everything, and she doesn't have any face and everything. That's the one scary moment in the movie and everything. Really interesting. I don't know if I had heard of it before I saw this show up on Turner Classic, but yeah, well worth watching. I'm surprised that you have actually seen this movie, Josh.
It was I think it was last year, but I clearly don't remember as much about it as in my mind. It was a different, like, I have different visuals in my mind, I think.
And who knows, man, the way this week has been, I'm probably remembering it wrong too. So I do remember that you're right.
Yeah, I do remember that they were calculated with what they showed. It wasn't a gratuitous like the movie.
Right.
But it was, I did enjoy that movie as well.
What you got, Josh?
So if I keep them short, can I do 2?
Yeah, baby.
Sure.
This is so just thinking about again, my movie squad, make it all about me again. Going into it, there are 2 movies that I kind of thought of as the mom and the dad to my movie a little bit. In that the metaphor is real accessible, even from like the log line. And that's the kind of the way when we talk about there's the guy who's suffering from grief thinks that there's a force field around his house. It's just kind of like this very easily accessible sort of thing, and it dabbles in the sci-fi. And so both of these movies are the same way in that regard. So one of them is Colossal.
Yeah.
But it had a pretty good re-release, so I think a lot of people probably saw it. But Chris, how do you say his last name? Vigilando, Nacho Vigilando, or
I'm not sure actually.
Well, that's the director. But yeah, so if you don't know, Colossal it's a movie where Anne Hathaway, when she drinks, she controls a kaiju monster in Korea.
Yep.
and it's very funny when it's supposed to be funny, and then it has this really interesting sort of dark turn. Jason Sudeikis is in it, as well, and as well as Tim Blake Nelson. Anyway, it's an interesting movie. It brought me in because of the concept was so bizarre and held me the whole time. And so it's been one of those that I look to, when we were working on Squat, like the way when you get the metaphor right there at the beginning, you have a chance to kind of unpack it for the whole movie as opposed to unpack it to the metaphor in a movie, and of course it's a little sci-fi, which I really dig. And then the other one is Dave Made a Maze.
I love this movie.
Came out 2017. Actually won the Slam Dance Audience Award in 2017, and I think it was the what is it called? It was nominated for the Grand Jury Prize, but it didn't. But this movie is about an artist who creates a cardboard maze in his living room. And then he goes inside and he gets lost in it because this maze that he created is growing without his help. Right. And so then all of his friends have to go in and try and rescue him. And it's this weird sort of quest movie with all these different worlds, but everything's out of cardboard. And it's just, it's an A+ for concept alone for me. It's also A+ because the director, Bill Watterson, not that Bill Watterson,
right?
Actually, talked to me on the phone. He let me call him, and we talked for about an hour before I directed the Squat, just giving me pointers and heads up and telling me about his experience and all of that. So I've got nothing but love for that movie as well.
We when Modern Horrors came on a few years ago, Jacob was recommending that movie, and it's just such a fun concept, so fun, so well done, and everything. So if you guys haven't seen both of those that you've mentioned, Dave Made a Maze and Colossal are both great. The Colossal, Jason Sudeikis is an asshole in that movie. Yeah. You're expecting him to be he's always either a funny guy or a funny asshole, but this guy is really an asshole.
Just straight across the board. Yeah, manipulative and gross. And I say that I think we are probably spoiling a little bit because he starts out the movie. You think it's just a little more of a kind of a cute little romantic comedy.
Yeah, so, you're right.
Spoiler or too late, spoiler. Hey, can I say one more thing? So this I just came in the mail today. This is my other recommend. It's the Arrow release of The Last Starfighter.
Oh shit!
It's a
wow.
So if you haven't seen The Last Starfighter, obviously, what's wrong with you? But this release, but it comes with it's got a cool booklet.
Ooh, I like booklets.
But it also comes with a cool poster.
So is it Walter Hill who directed Last Starfighter?
Sorry, my poster here. And it's got a reversible, just like the cover of it as well.
I think I've got a Blu-ray. I just don't have that special Blu-ray.
Yeah, well, it literally came in the mail today. It just released today. I pre-ordered it. I don't pre-order everything, but this movie with from Arrow was such a special sort of this is definitive of my youth.
Yeah, it was Nick Castle who directed it. The Last Starfighter was yet another one of those. There's probably I mentioned a lot of these HBO movies I saw when I was like 7 or 8 years old all the time, and Neverending Story and The Natural and all that. The Last Starfighter was one that was a heavy rotation.
Yeah,
because they had to get somebody who was good at video games to go up into space.
I don't even care about video games that much, but that movie still. It also was like a big deal early on with in the beginning of computer animation. It was one of the first baby steps of that was in that movie. Anyway, I actually had 3.
There you go.
Oh,
that's all right.
There you go. It's fine. Right. Totally good.
All right.
Fucking Josh.
The one that I stole from Chris is something that I was kind of excited for. It's the Borat sequel, subsequent movie film. Make benefit whatever the fuck it's all that bullshit afterwards.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think I know how Jeremy feels about Sacha Baron Cohen as his alter egos, the cringe humor and stuff like that. You're not really a fan, right, Jeremy?
No. No.
Mm-hmm.
It's very there are DNA elements of both prank humor and Tom Green humor, and I don't enjoy it. But before I'm stealing your thunder, I've come around on him as a person because in promoting this second movie, he's given a lot of interviews, and not only the things he said, but talked about a speech he gave, I guess a few months ago to an all-Jewish audience, and I like him as a person now, but I don't like this kind of comedy. I actually think he's really fucking hilarious in Talladega Nights. It's just that lying to people to get a reaction. I get he has a greater cause, especially with this one, because he's getting a lot of people to just reveal their blatant racism. Haven't seen the film, not trying to steal. I did try to steal your thunder, but the answer to your question is no.
Yeah. Okay.
Not a big fan of his comedy.
I got you. And you're right. It's almost weird to watch that speech that he did to the anti-Semitic League, I think is what it was, to hear his London accent. Because you're used to seeing Borat and Bruno and Ali G and all his stuff. He's very erudite. Like he went to fucking Cambridge to study civil rights. Anyway, this movie I think is better than the first one. I like the first one, but this one has less of what you're talking about here, Jeremy, and the gotcha moments and more of an actual story. And there are some moments in here where the star of the show is the woman that plays his daughter, Maria Bakalova. A Bulgarian actress that hasn't been really in much. She's 24, but she's playing his 15-year-old daughter. And she's every bit as in step as he is in this character. And there's some tender moments, including one where he's dressed in like a women's lingerie thing. But anyway, the gotcha moments worked for me. There's a lot of talk about the Giuliani thing. The Giuliani thing is important to the story, but it didn't shock me or anything like that. And the rest of the story is actually pretty good. My favorite part of this is where he befriends 2 guys that are wilderness survivors who are convinced that COVID is made up by the Democrats. I think they're QAnon guys. Is that right, Chris?
They are QAnon guys, yes.
And the way that what makes him different in my mind than other prank humor and stuff like that is the way that he addresses them as humans. And yes, they go off on their bonkers ideas, but they seem to actually like him. And they're presented as humans, just humans with wacky ass fucking ideas. And so I was absolutely engrossed in this movie in a way that I wasn't even the first one. There are still some funny things. There are still some cringy things in this. There's a hilarious cameo at the very, very end of this movie. And I kind of like there's a reveal at the end of this movie too that I think is very satisfying and humorous. Josh, have you seen this?
I did. I watched it a few days ago as well.
Yeah, I was excited because I liked Borat, but I too like him as a person. And it actually exceeded my expectations. So this is a recommend for me. Borat subsequent movie film for Kazakh. Yeah.
It's really interesting too. And this is where I think there's a slight separation from and I agree with you, Jeremy. I'm not, I don't like the prank humor either. I don't like Tom Green type stuff either. Because I think that's getting innocent people a lot of the times. Whereas this one, these people are, to me, are far from innocent from what they say and think. But the QAnon guys are talking about how big of a hoax this COVID is and everything. And then there's a later moment in the movie where they were like, no, that you don't need to believe this type of stuff. That's just conspiracy theory stuff. like just unironically saying that, even though they're very steeped into this other conspiracy theory stuff. Catching people at their worst, where you don't actually see that a lot of the times in the media and everything. Is enlightening, I believe. But there's a lot of really cool. I can't wait to see all the side stuff, but I've seen a couple of side things already that are not in the movie. There was a point where he's parked on the side of the road, and two Georgia cops come up to him. And this is not in the movie. This is just they see him parked, and she, the daughter, is sitting in a chair on top of the truck. And they go over and they start asking him questions and everything. And then they come back and he's like, and the Georgia cop guys are like, man, there's got to be a camera around here somewhere. I mean, even though this is, I don't even know if he's dressed as Borat, and he may be at this point, but they are pretty wise to it right off the bat. They're like, there's got to be a camera around here somewhere and everything. And he goes across the street to like some diner, and this person comes out and he's like, did you call this in? And he goes, no, not me. He's like, yeah, we got an anonymous call about this car over here and everything. Anyway, I think they're shooting a new Borat film because the guy in there looks like Borat. The guy's like, no shit, and all that. But he showed a clip on Stephen Colbert that is fucking frightening, man. Apparently when he goes in to that concert as Country Steve and he sings that song and everything, that actually nearly turned the wrong way because they knew who he was after a while.
Yeah.
Apparently there were some Black Lives Matter protesters who came in and like disguised themselves and mixed in with the crowd, and somebody in that group was like, it's Sacha Baron Cohen. Suddenly everybody just spread all over the place, and then that's when there were like almost a rush on the stage and everything. He said he hired the security, so it took a while for anybody to actually go up to the stage and everything, but he had a trailer already like set up. So that when he ran off of the stage, he locked himself in that thing. All right, let's go.
Oh, there's all kinds of crazy stuff. When he goes to that CPAC rally to throw his daughter at Mike Pence, he's wearing a bulletproof vest. I mean, the filming behind this is some of the most interesting. It's almost like Mission Impossible, where it's like he had to sit in that bathroom for like 4 hours or even longer, I think. He said, I had to sit in the bathroom and listen to Republicans go to the bathroom for about 4 hours or so. And then he comes out as Trump. And the guy has balls of steel.
It's unbelievable.
And as a character, he acts very, very well in this movie. Did you like it, Chris?
Yeah, I did. I think I liked the first one better, though. I think I don't know. The first one, there's more of a surprise factor to everything, and the second one has its moments and everything. I think it's better than the Bruno that he did.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I did like it. I thought it was really funny and yeah, like again, eye opening in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
So
what'd you think, Josh?
I think I liked it more than the first one, but I don't. It's hard for me to disassociate. Like I think he's a brilliant actor, and I haven't seen the interviews with him and stuff like that. But I think everything I've seen him do, like he's a chameleon, right? Which is how, and he can play off of anything. Overall, like I'm more in the line with like the gleefully exposing our country for how ignorant it is.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't find it as funny. I find it hurts to watch it for me.
yeah.
It totally hurts.
That's the thing. Like it's, I don't like the Mirror. I think it's accurate. I think he's genius, like I said, but it's too hard. It's too painful to watch for me, I think.
Yeah.
There's
no doubt.
I did watch it, so it's not too.
It's not overt comedy. It's more of like Lenny Bruce type of comedy, which is funny because he's playing Abby Hoffman in the Trial of the Chicago 7.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But like, the most shocking moment to me is where the bakery woman just casually writes "Jews will not replace us" on the cake without even batting an eye.
Yeah.
That's not funny.
It's hard. It's hard to watch. It's so hard.
Well, and also it can be taken two ways too. You can say, "Oh, this person just doesn't give a shit," but you could also say they're too timid to say anything back to that person. And a lot of times these people look bad because of the stance they don't take. But at the same time, it's like they might not want to deal with any like backlash from their customer, quote unquote, to just have to, they don't want to be in the news about anything. They don't want to ruffle any feathers. Yeah. And so I think a lot of times they do look worse than they, and who knows, maybe because the fact that she doesn't look like she batted an eye, maybe she didn't care. But a lot of times I think there's a duality to that whole thing too, and we have to keep that in mind, that this is entertainment too, and that they can cut it how they want to, and a lot of different type of things that can happen in that. So anyway, but
and ultimately I don't think he's not changing anybody's mind. I think anybody who is on board and embracing it, like they probably already have the same opinion, and they probably all already are aware of this ignorance, and but I think anybody who is in a stance opposition to anything, that if they are a Trump supporter or they are whatever, they're just probably not going to watch the movie to start with.
Yeah, right.
Maybe, I don't know.
Well, and what's interesting is in the first movie you see the beginnings of a lot of this type of stuff happening, and I can see somebody thinking that the first movie didn't do that. Like if you're on one side or the other, you can probably be, I love that first one. He didn't go all political in that first one. And then the second one looks like it's super political to them, even though the first one pretty much showed the groundwork for what we were about to get into.
Man, I had a boss at the time the first one came out who is as Republican as they come. Nice guy, but really Republican. And he said very nice for the rest of his life after he saw Borat. He fell in love with that movie, and I would love to know right now what he thinks of the sequel, because he's a reasonable dude. I haven't talked to him in years. For all I know, he's still Republican, but I'm sure he's still Republican, but he may not be a Trump Republican.
Yeah, two different things now.
Right? Yeah. Just like there's two types of Christians now, like the Christians who follow the Bible, and the other ones. Ones who follow Trump.
Yeah.
So really, I mean, I'm not trying to be too political, but I'm seeing a lot of freaking Christians just look the other way at all the shit that man does, and I'm like, hey, I don't go to church anymore, but I know that book and I know what it says, and this dude is not it.
Not my type of guy.
There are plenty of us that would agree with you.
I watched this one movie, and I'd seen Borat, but that was Barrett's. So the only other thing that I have seen that I can actually report on and say recommend or warn or whatever is David Letterman came out with his new set of the next guest needs no introduction on Netflix, and one of them is Dave Chappelle. So of course I beelined to that one. Over the Kim Kardashian and the Kanye West
and the Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, I beelined to the Dave Chappelle one, and I have this. I kind of wish Dave Chappelle could. I know this is not what he wants in his life, but this guy really needs to like talk more nationally because he has. I don't know, years of stand-up has gotten him to a point where his conversational style is so like easy to get into, and so he makes such reasonable points and everything, and David Letterman is talking to him. He even gets him to talk about why he left Chappelle Show, which has had a lot of they've had several different reasonings on that, by the way. Like I've heard all sorts, and I'm sure all of those added up to him leaving, but he actually talked about a sketch that he did that he got just the wrong laugh, is what he said, on this one sketch they were doing for season 3, and he just started, I guess it spiraled him towards thinking about maybe quitting, but him talking about just the way things are in the world and everything is it's just one of these things where it's like, man, he's just so ultimately reasonable about everything, and just has this he just seems super wise about what he's saying. And I don't know how many people could I mean, I'm sure there are people who would be, I don't know, angered at what he says, but I don't know. It seems like just a different way. He doesn't seem to have any kind of like viciousness to what he's saying. He's just saying, this is how it is. And, look, and, I can see this way and I can see that and whatever. And man, just listening to him talk to David Letterman sitting there, he's in awe too. Even though Chappelle's in awe of Letterman is just sitting there going, this guy is great. But I would recommend finding that on Netflix, at least that one thing. And I'm sure I'll see the other ones later, but it's a mesmerizing interview. It's one of those interviews that just really gets you in this mood where you're like, there are reasonable people on this earth, and we need to listen to more people like that. And I wish Dave Chappelle could get up. And I'm sure that if Chappelle ever did that, where he came out every day saying stuff, we get tired of him. But there needs to be more of this kind of discussion going on in the world. So,
well, if you want the polar opposite of that, watch the Robert Downey Jr. episode, because it's a goddamn snooze fest. This guy has had one of the most interesting lives, let alone careers. And they spend a whole fucking segment on his alpaca farm. And I'm like, the fuck is this, man? Talk about fucking Iron Man and Less Than Zero and cocaine and hookers
and cocaine and hookers,
and some salads and shit.
Jesus.
Anyway, I totally will like it. It's interesting that he's dialed back the vitriol, because he was so angry, rightfully so, in that Netflix is a joke stand-up special, you could say.
Right.
And I'm going to beeline for this too. I can't believe I clicked on the Robert Downey Jr. one.
As I said, man, it's the kind of just interview, just kind of like, I don't know, it calms your nerves, even though you're hearing some shit that is hard to hear. It's just the way he speaks, man. It's just the way he talks. It's just, there's some rhythm to it that just, oh my God, I wish he needs to, this is the kind of force we need in the world.
This is how I talk. Haven't you seen my movies?
Yes.
I want to piss on you. I would like to hop in and offer a warn to counter my recommend. This was a fun Google for me. Again, I explain this every time, but you guys had to know how I choose something. If I'm flipping channels and I see a relatively recent movie that I've never seen or heard of with people in it I know, I am very likely to stop on it and see. So I did this with a movie that came out in 2018 called Driven. I had flipped past it because several times because I thought it was that Sylvester Stallone garbage, and I don't want to watch that again. But in flipping by again, I noticed the date, and I said, "Oh, that's a different movie." There's another movie in 2019 called Driven, another movie in 2020 called Driven. Driven is the new Heat in terms of movie titles.
A movie called Drive-In, which is the same spelling as Driven.
Yes. So this is about, ostensibly, John DeLorean, the guy who made the DeLorean, and his downfall. That's how the movie sells itself in the trailer I watched. That's the log line. But this movie is not about him. This movie is about Jason Sudeikis playing a guy named Jim Hoffman. And he is a pilot that runs drugs. And the first scene of the movie basically is him getting caught. And he's basically forced to become an FBI informant. And he spends a long time trying to get closer to this drug dealer that he has done work for in the past so he can give the FBI this guy. Shit. And that's Michael Cudlitz. And
Want to do some blow?
He also ends up living next door to John DeLorean, who has famous rich friends and throws lavish parties, and the two men become friendly to where Sudeikis cleans DeLorean's pool whenever DeLorean travels overseas. The movie plays like it wants to be a cross between Molly's Game and American Made, that Tom Cruise gun-running movie with Doug Liman.
Were there riveting clean the pool scenes? Because it sounds very exciting.
No. There were a couple of non-riveting clean the pool scenes. Sudeikis is charming, and that alone might carry it for you if you're like a big Sudeikis fan. But the movie errs in focusing on him instead of DeLorean, because really the only thing DeLorean does wrong is be friends with this guy. At the very end, he makes a deal between Cudlitz and DeLorean goes to jail and bankrupt, and the rest is the car's history. That's very fascinating to me. But watching the boring informant neighbor I never heard of argue with his Judy Greer wife about why they're not as rich as the DeLoreans is boring.
Oh, wow.
And then the movie keeps future cutting to court where DeLorean's on trial, Sudeikis is on the stand, and the lawyer is Justin Bartha.
Okay.
I pulled this up, otherwise I would have called him National Treasure sidekick. And that grinds everything to a halt. There is some glitz and glamour moments with the parties and the famous hobnobbing. And the movie could have done more of that. Like, think of like the Boogie Nights parties.
Mm-hmm.
You know how there's like 3 or 4 big party scenes in Boogie Nights. There's a couple of scenes like that in here. One guest, Cudlitz's girlfriend, gets drunk and naked and starts trying on John DeLorean's wife's clothes, and then she jumps in the pool. Maybe that's just the nudity I liked. I don't know. This is a warn because I was bored to tears. And I felt like it had a very riveting, interesting premise and a very good cast. And I was ultimately disappointed. It looks like it's got a 60-something on Rotten Tomatoes, 60, 64, 60, 63. So more people liked it than didn't. But it was a snooze fest for me, and I would stay away unless you're just like the hugest Sudeikis fan ever.
Sudeikis heads.
Yeah.
Who plays DeLorean?
Who plays who?
Yeah.
DeLorean? Oh, Lee Pace.
Oh, Ronan.
Yeah.
Or the guy from The Cell.
Sure.
Sure. From
No, the other one.
the Pie Maker.
The Pie Maker?
Spy.
No, the Pie Maker from
the Thranduil or whatever his name is in Hobbit.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
No, I was thinking.
Is that who you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about the TV that TV show that was it Barry Levinson?
Pushing Daisies?
Pushing Daisies, yeah. He was.
Oh, yeah.
Was that show? That's Brian Fuller, right? No, it's somebody else.
Barry.
It's somebody.
Isn't it Barry? It's Barry Sonnenfeld. Is it Barry?
Brian Fuller did Pushing Daisies.
Okay, so this is very much like that. It sounds. I never saw Pushing Daisies, but you called him the Pie Maker, and now all I can think of is that waitress movie with
Kerry Russell.
Kerry Russell, not Alias.
Well, there you go.
Felicity. Anyway, so yes, that's a warn. There wasn't enough good here for me to even wreck a warn.
I have another warn.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Emily in Paris can kiss my balls.
I saw this on Netflix too. Ran across this as well.
Is it
it's
a show?
amazing.
It's Tony Shalhoub, right? No, am I thinking of something else?
No, it's Lily Collins. What has Lily Collins been in? She's adorable.
Well, we saw a movie with her earlier in the summer that had Patrick Warburton and Simon Pegg and
Oh
what was that movie?
It was the thing where he has an American accent.
Yeah, it was that movie
with the director. I think.
Did we?
I think so.
I don't know if we did. It was called Inheritance.
Oh yeah, that's where I saw her recently.
I think we saw the screening. We didn't do anything with it though.
Well, Lily Collins is adorable, and I don't want this to be an indictment of her. And her character is pretty adorable too. This show is about two of my favorite cities in the universe, Chicago and Paris. And she is coming over from Chicago with her can-do attitude of running a social media thing for haute cuisine, or not haute cuisine, but like couture in Paris. Oh, but she doesn't speak French. And once she gets to Paris, this show is infuriating because they show French people as every fucking stereotype that you've ever heard. You know, they're rude. They really don't like you if you speak French. If you're really nice to them, they're going to piss all over your shoes or something like that.
Right?
Yeah. Haven't you heard that? But it's such bullshit. The
Sounds more like Mexico City.
Mm-hmm.
Do they all wear berets?
Yes, some people wear berets. All the men are horny. They're horny for her. And like, dude, I've been to Paris. They're the nicest people you ever meet. If you don't speak French, which I didn't very well, they're perfectly fine. Everybody knows English over there. And they're all super, super nice. In this show, even the bakery woman that gives her the pain au chocolat, she's like, pain au chocolat. They're constantly like correcting her and being every goddamn stereotype that you've ever heard of French people. And it's very annoying. If you build a show on a faulty premise, I'm not going to get into that show no matter how adorable and how much I want to bang the protagonist. How beautiful the protagonist is. I can't get into it.
Yeah.
I can't. So that's
Can't.
that's my warn. All right.
All right.
That is passionate.
Apparently, Jeremy, Lily Collins is in Okja as well.
I love that movie.
Just had to get our monthly Okja in there so that just bring it up for no reason other than she's kind of in that movie.
Have any of you even seen it yet?
I haven't. I need to see it.
I watched the first
Which one?
quarter of it.
Okja.
Oh yeah.
This is, I mean, as good as Parasite and Snowpiercer are, you owe Okja a viewing, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
It is worth watching. I mean, it's an amazing movie anyway, but it is a study watching. What's his name in that movie? He is fascinating.
Jake Gyllenhaal?
Yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal. He is like he's like a train wreck. I can't take my. I mean, everything else in the movie is perfection, and that's the reason I go with it. But it is out there.
It's out there,
yeah?
And this we're talking about like Tilda Swinton is
More
already.
It's
out there.
But I think you're right on. It's this idea, and it happens sometimes with when filmmakers from different countries have American actors, and it's like they they pull this something out of them, and they give these actors this freedom that they normally wouldn't have, or it's like, and I don't think it's something lost in the translation. It's just like this other flavor where they're like, no, this is exactly what people will love, from where I'm from, or something, you know what I mean? But it's one of the boldest choices I've seen on a performance, and I still don't know if I like it or not. I just couldn't take my eyes off it.
Interesting. That guy knows his stuff, man. Between Nightcrawler, even Velvet Buzzsaw, which is a terrible movie, he is magnetic in that movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's made some good choices. I like the way his career's gone.
I do too, and I think this, like I said, I think that was a bold performance in Okja, but it is like he left it all out there. There was no like you can't half-ass that.
Is he the one that screams Okja?
No, the little girl screams Okja because it's her pet.
Sounds like somebody needs to rewatch Okja.
And it's fucking adorable, and you should watch it.
I always, I don't know. I'm definitely going to watch it in the next week or two. I'm going to watch it.
I have a Warren, but I did also
go for it.
But I also did take 3 for my.
No,
don't worry about it.
Hit us with the Warren.
Yeah.
And all this talk about Jason Sudeikis actually made me want to do another recommend, but I'm going to bypass it and go with my Warren because it's probably more important. Tremors, Shrieker Island.
Oh, I've heard of this too. Is this on Netflix?
This is brand new on Netflix.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I've watched every Tremors movie. I've seen them as soon as they came out. But this one is probably no worse than the last.
The trailer sure
people.
looked bad, man. That trailer was bad.
But I wanted to put it up as a warn. Basically, if you're watching this, you already know what you're in for, and you're probably going to love it. But the warn is more I just want to divert people back to the original. Because the second one had a little bit of the charm, but all the rest of them kind of lost most of the charm of what made the first one so spectacular, which was that perfect mix of horror and practical effects and super great comedy and this amazing dynamic between the actors, this awesome ensemble.
Yeah, there's actual character work in that first movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to say it because I know that the Arrow special edition of that is coming out in December.
Oh, okay.
So people should be aware of that for that one. But if you're a fan of the whole Tremors franchise, this movie is probably fine for you. It doesn't give us anything new, though, and it's kind of a heartbreaking because it's the first time Michael Gross kind of felt like he was too old to be
too old for this shit.
Yeah, kind of. And I don't know how old he is, and I don't think he's nearly as old as he. I think he's much older than he actually looks. Because he's been around for a gazillion years, but he's still moving around and stuff. But it's a little, like saying goodbye to him, in the franchise.
Has he been in all the Tremors?
Oh yeah!
Wow, that's impressive.
Once they hit the third one, he became like the franchise. It was all about Burt Gummer. And the TV show for that matter as well, the sci-fi series that was on for like a season.
You really love you some Tremors, man. You really are.
I'm all in on the Tremors, but the original is it's downright just a great movie across the.
I like the one where they go back to the Old West.
That's 3.
Yeah, I don't really like that one.
Have you seen all the Tremors?
I like the one where they come across the abandoned insane asylum and the cannibals are there. Oh, that's the wrong turn.
Oh, that was session 9. You were thinking of session 9. That's going to do it for this episode. Yeah, man. Go to let's do the link one more time. Just go
to Seed and Spark and look for Squat.
I'm going to tweet the link. So just go to Twitter /Cinemasins and you can find the link. I'll put the link on the tweet.
Yeah.
But it will be, you have to scroll back 6 days.
But I'd like to thank Josh Childs for coming in and giving us some insight into this movie and the trials and tribulations of making an indie film in the pandemic.
Y'all are all grandfathered in too for screenings or whatever, so you'll have
hell yeah we are
for all that you guys have done for our.
I can't wait to see it
over the time. That may be it may be in 2 years, but you'll be there.
Yeah. All right. If you want to talk about this episode, go to SinCast presented by Cinemasins on Facebook. We're also on Music Video Sins, Cinemasins Twitter. Cinemasins Twitter, Music Video Sins Twitter. We're on Discord. If you want to get on Discord, you can go to our Reddit page and find a link on the right side, or you can go to the Facebook page and private message me, and I will give you a link there. We're also on SoundCloud. But that's going to do it for this week. It's Chris Atkinson, Josh Childs, Barrett Scher, and Jeremy Scott. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
Was that a euphemism?
Yeah,
it is.
I used to say that to my college ex-girlfriend. Give me a second while I let my dog out.
Yeah. I gotta let it bark. I gotta let it eat.
Every dog likes a bone, like Puppy.
Fuck.
I heard that.
Fucking hell.
It's like the reprise of the America Fuck Yeah in Team America, where they're like, America Fuck.
It is exactly like that.
What do you have there, Josh? You've got your movie, and then you've got Raiders, and is that Temple of Doom?
That's Last Crusade, actually.
Okay. I agree. I don't like Temple of Doom nearly as much as
I never said that.
That's Jessica say. He didn't say that.
I have a special spot in my heart for Temple of Doom. I just don't have the. It probably has the coolest poster actually too.
It does. Yeah, it does.
But I do. Yeah, it was this direction or the other direction, which was more cluttered, and that's where all my movies were. And I thought maybe that might be too much. It might be trying too hard for the Cinemasins podcast to.
Well, wait till you see what's behind movies. Chris.
Well, we're not recording video. We're just using it to help us not talk over each other so much.
What's up, Chris?
Hey, how's it going?
It's good to see you, man.
It's good to see you too. Yeah.
I am correct. Temple of Doom is the third best of the original series, correct?
Yes, third best.
Yes, but not necessarily third favorite. It's hard for me to disassociate.
Because you were a kid when you saw it?
That's the first one I saw, yeah. So it's a hard, like personally, it's the most personal.
It's your horrible bosses too.
It is.
Because you saw the sequel first. It's always going to be superior to the original.
It's true. But I can I can totally recognize that 1 and 3 are the best of the series, absolutely. But 2 is.
I think I saw them. I think I saw them in reverse order. I think I saw Crusade first because that was '89, right?
That was definitely the first one I saw.
It was '89.
It was right before. It was high school, so I think it was '89.
It was definitely '89.
Chris says it was definitely '89.
We've established the fact that it was 1989.
Yeah.
Hey,
I love that. I do this all the time where people will be like, what is that date? And I'm like, it's definitely this. And they're like, I think it's this. Blah, 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 blah. And you're like, I just told you what the fucking date was. And these people are still fucking like, they're still arguing about it. And you're like, what the hell?
IMDb, all up in here.
That's right. It's somewhat related. When I was in New York, there was a Regal like get together from all the managers and everybody, and we got on the Brooklyn Cyclones field, and we got to play some baseball.
Nice.
So it was the managers versus the general managers versus the assistant managers, or whatever. And there was this play where I'm like in center field, but it's really like close to the infield because nobody's going to hit it very far. It's a softball. And there was a grounder that I actually scooped up, stepped on second, threw to first base, got a double play.
Nice.
Like, really fucking cool. And they had a runner on third, and somebody was like, "Oh, well, he crossed the plate before you threw that ball to first base." And I said, "That doesn't matter."
It doesn't matter.
I said, "That's not a thing." And then somebody went and called somebody he knew, and I was like, "I know baseball. Why are you why even bothering with this? I don't know what you're talking about. What are you doing?"
You got a Bryson DeChambeau there on the field with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me call my friend who's an umpire.
Yeah, right.
What makes that even better is whenever you have a 12-year-old son who does not recognize that you could know anything more than he does.
I too have a 12-year-old son. I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's everything, not just baseball movies. It's everything.
I was just going through the email thread between you two guys last night. I was like, because I couldn't follow. I was like, is the priest spanking off to his daughter, or you played the father of the daughter in a previous thing? And this would have been okay.
Are you talking about Natalia Dyer?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I played her dad in a short film several years ago.
Uh-huh.
And then the film that Jared was talking about, the new one that just came out, I didn't audition, but I saw the sides for a role which a priest pleasures himself to porn while the Catholic schoolgirl sees him.
Is that the Yes God Yes thing that's out?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll be talking about this later in the podcast.
Okay.
Yeah.
I actually ran across that and I was like, yeah, I might want to watch that, but I didn't get around to it.
Are we going to seriously offend you if we are our normal vulgar self?
No.
Dude,
You guys are all good. You can curse all
Fuck
day.
him.
Caca, TT, doo-doo, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. All the whole spectrum there.
I think those are on the 7 words that George Carlin.
It's time to finally talk about poo sex.
That's right. You ever get your poo pushed in?
Oh, I spoke too soon, didn't I?
It wasn't during a presentation, but it was during a meeting, and I got something that said like James Joyce's love letter to his girlfriend. And I opened it up in front of my staff and everything, and apparently he's into some weird shit. Like,
nice.
I'll send it to you. It's hilarious.
What was
But it ended with, "My darling, if you shat your pants, I would fuck you in the ass."
Oh my God. Unreal.
This is in front of everybody.
I don't want to be an author anymore.
Who was the writer in Seinfeld that they ended up finding all his love letters and everything?
Cheever.
Susan's.
Oh yeah, Cheever.
Cheever letters.
They found like my orgasm
was so strong, I nearly saw God. Yes, and the love we shared will never be matched by anyone.
Yeah,